Ayan, so mic test, mic test, mic test. Okay. So good morning everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you wanna watch this. Pasensya na kung kinat ko siya, no? Inantok na kasi ako kanina talaga. So anyway, for part 2 ng introduction to theories of personality natin, I want you to think na ang main idea dito is very, very interesting. Okay? Personality theories are not created by robots. Yun lang, no? Ginawa sila ng real people, scientists, psychologists, theorists, no? Na may sariling personality experiences, beliefs, and way of seeing the world. Personality theories, um, they grow from theorists' own personalities. Kaya marapat lang na pag-aralan din natin kung anong klaseng tao ang mga theorists behind their theories, right? Hindi para maging chismoso ha. Konti lang. Ang main point talaga nito ay minsan mas nagigets kasi natin ang theory kapag naiintindihan natin kung saan nanggagaling yung creator. Okay? Parang sa class, di ba? Kapag may student na laging practical mag-isip, iba yung interpretation niya sa situation. Kapag may student na emotional or reflective, iba rin yung mapapansin niya, di ba? Same situation, different lens. Kunwari, ako, I don't really judge people who voted Marcos, di ba? Because they have their own reason, they have their own perspective. My father, siguro one thing kung bakit hindi ko sila ginajudge is because my father voted Marcos simply because galing siyang Ilocos, 'di ba? My father is an Ilocano. So basically, ang point ng buhay niya ay solid north daw sila and then everything like that. And I understand that kasi that's his own belief, right? And ako, ang hindi ko lang maintindihan is that nung binoise out ko na ang iboboto ko ay si Lenny, ay nag-away kami dalawa ng tatay ko kasi sabi niya, dapat si Marcos hindi kayang maganito, maganyan-ganyan, yun. So yun, nagkaroon ng problem sa family namin. But still, by the end of the day, I still understand him because he's my father and naiintindihan ko talaga yung choice niya kung bakit si Bongbong Marcos yung binoto niya, right? Good thing naman din sa kanya is that he did not vote for Sara Duterte. Ang binoto niya ay si Kiko Pangilinan naman. Kasi he's just a misogynist, okay? Hindi niya lang gusto talaga na iboto or hindi niya lang nakikitang magandang leader yung babae para sa isang malaking bansa. Ganon. So, yun. Ganun lang siya. No? Mas nagigets ko siya. Mas nagigets ko yung pinili niyang choice. No? Yung boto niya because mas kilala ko siya. Nakwento niya sa akin kung bakit yun yung boto niya, may reason siya about it, right? Yun. So, that's the thing, no? Kasi, ang personality theory, hindi lang natin tinatanong kung ano yung theory, right? Hindi natin minimemorize kung anong laman nun, kung anong mga concepts inside it. Tinatanong din natin kasi dito, bakit kaya ganito yung naging focus ng theorist? No? Makikialam tayo, makikichismis tayo sa umpisa. Pero later, hindi sapat na gusto natin yung personality ng theorist, no? The theory must still be evaluated scientifically. Okay? Alright, dito pumapasok ang field na tinatawag na psychology of science. It is a subdiscipline ng psychology. Ito ay hindi lang nag-aaral ng science mismo. Pinag-aaralan din ang scientists as people kasi scientists have personalities, cognitive processes, developmental histories, and social experiences. In simple terms, hindi lang natin tinitingnan ang final product ng theory or research. Tinitingnan din natin kung paano nakakaapekto ang scientist's mind and personality sa ginagawa niyang science. Example, imagine, two researchers studying students, no? Yung isa, very numbers oriented. Gusto niya surveys, scores, statistical patterns, ganyan. Yung isa naman, mas interested siya sa stories, interviews, lived experiences. Same topic, same students, but different approach because different ang orientation nila. So, psychology of science, ganun din. It asks, how does the scientist's own psychology influence the kind of science they conduct? Okay? Hindi ito random idea lang. Ang point dito is that even science, while aiming for objectivity, is still done by human beings. Okay? Importanteng tandaan na scientists are human beings. May personality sila, may thinking sila, may childhood and developmental history sila. Okay? May social experiences sila. So kapag gumagawa sila ng theory, hindi sila blank slate. may dala silang perspective, may point of view sila. So kung ang scientist ay mahilig sa precision, measurement, and clear strategies, and clear categories as well, baka mas ma-attract sila sa quantitative approaches. Kung ang scientist naman ay may interest sa inner experience, meaning, and personal stories, baka mas ma-attract siya sa clinical or qualitative approach. Okay? Parang sa group work, right? May isang member na gusto agad table, 'di ba? Gusto agad gawa tayo table, gawa tayo checklist, gawa tayo deadline, structure natin 'to, yung ganyan-ganyan. May isa naman yung gusto pag-usapan muna natin yung meaning, yung flow, no? Brainstorm muna tayo ng idea, anong gusto natin. Pareho silang useful, pero magkaiba yung style. Ganon din sa theories. Okay? So, kapag pinag-aralan natin ng personality theories, useful, may intindihan kung ano ang psychological and personal world ng gumawa ng theory. Kasi doon lumalabas yung juice na kailangan natin, yung kwento na kailangan natin, yung chismis para maging interesting si theories of personality. Okay? Ganun siya. May mga evidence na personality differences influence a person's theoretical orientation. Ibig sabihin, kung anong klase ng tao ang scientist, possible na makaapekto yon sa theory or approach na pipiliin niya. Okay? May scientists na mas leaning toward the hard side of discipline. Usually, ito yung mas quantitative, measurable, structured, or yung mga data heavy. Baka gusto nila numbers, variables, tests, scores, tsaka patterns, right? May mga scientists naman na leaning toward the soft side. Mas interested sila sa clinical meaning, personal experience, interpretation, depth, qualitative understanding, scoring, right? Hindi ibig sabihin mas magaling ang isa kesa sa isa. Magkaiba lang sila ng focus, pero same sila ng gustong sukatin. Okay? So, understanding personality theories depends on knowing the historical, social, and psychological worlds of each theorist, of each creator. So, hindi natin dapat tingnan ang theorist or yung creator na parang isolated brain floating in space, no? May time period siya, may society siya, may relationship siya, may personal struggles or experiences siya, may psychological world siya. Especially yung timeline, kailangan nating tingnan. Kasi, minsan, ginajudge nila si Freud na masyadong sexual si Freud kasi ganito, kasi ganyan, kasi ganyan, kasi ganyan. Hindi natin alam na he was from a different timeline to what we have right now. Yung perspective natin ngayon, influence yan ng mga nauna. And siguro kasi, nung time niya, yun yung pinaka-relevant, yung sexual thing. Right? Siguro, mabigat pa yung idea ng misogyny, kaya parang tinitingnan niya talaga yung sex thing na malaking factor in how people think, right? And it matters or it makes sense nung panahon niya. Hindi nga lang natin ngayon. Hindi nga lang sa panahon natin ngayon, medyo weird na siya, 'di ba? 'Yun. So, ganun lang siya, no? Kung ang theorist ay nabuhay in a context where mental illness, sexuality, culture, social roles, or scientific measurement were being discussed in certain ways, that context may influence what questions they ask. Right? Sa everyday life, ganito rin. Kung malaki ka, or kung lumaki ka sa environment na strict, baka iba yung view mo sa discipline. Kung lumaki ka sa environment na expressive, baka iba yung view mo sa emotions. Your world shapes what feels important to you. So when studying personality theories, biography is not extra decoration lang. It can help us understand why the theorist focused on certain concepts. Kaya may substantial biographical information for each major proponents. Okay? Hindi siya filler. Hindi siya basta kwento lang. Hindi siya basta, konting background lang tayo sa ganito, sa ganyan. No? Important siya. Kasi kapag alam natin ang background ng proponent or ng creator, mas madaling maintindihan kung bakit yon ang naging concern niya. Okay? Kung ang isang theorist ay focused sa anxiety, relationships, or meaning, we can ask, ano kaya sa personal or professional world niya ang nagdala sa kanya sa ganitong focus? No? Again, hindi tayo mag invent ng chismis, pero kung supported ng text ang biography, useful siya. Alright? Parang kapag kilala mo yung teacher, mas maintindihan mo yung teaching style niya. May teacher na strict because they value structure. May teacher na warm because they value emotional safety. May mga teacher na research heavy because they value evidence. Hindi ibig sabihin personality lang ang basis, pero it helps us explain the pattern itself. Alright? Okay, naintindihan? Okay, pero we have to be careful. Kasi kahit na may impact ang theorist's personality, hindi dapat yon ang sole determinant ng theory. Meaning, hindi natin sasabihin na, ganito theory niya kasi ganito childhood niya, tapos na. No? That would be too simplistic. Hindi nang make sense yung science by then. Right? Also, hindi dapat ang acceptance natin sa theory ay based sa personal values or likes. Hindi porke feel natin warm sa humanistic theory ay automatic best theory na siya, 'di ba? Hindi porke controversial or strange ang isang theory, automatic useless na yung theory. Okay? Hindi porke favorite mo yung teacher, perfect na lahat ng lecture niya. Hindi rin porke hindi mo vibe yung teacher, mali na lahat ng sinasabi niya. Dapat meron tayong objective evaluation. So yes, acknowledge theorist personality. Pero when evaluating the theory, you have to always ask, does it generate research? Does it explain data? Is it useful? Is it stimulating? Is it scientifically strong? Okay? Additionally, we have to look for our own personal values and predilections. Ayan. Predilections means a preference or inclinations. Alright? Minsan, may theory tayong gusto kasi bagay sa personality natin. Yung parang, ay, ako yung dinidescribe niyan, no? Middle child ako, so gusto ko kay Adler. Ganon, right? Hindi pwedeng ganun, 'di ba? Kung optimistic ka, baka mas bet mo yung humanistic theory. Kung mahilig ka sa evidence and measurement, baka mas bet mo yung trait theory. Kung mahilig ka mag-analyze ng hidden meanings, yung tipong pati scene sa messenger, may psychological interpretation, baka psychodynamic yung trip mo. Okay lang magkaroon ng preference, no? Normal yon. Hindi naman yun nawawala. Pero hindi dapat doon lang nakabase yung judgment mo. So, if mayroong student na ayaw kay Freud kasi ang weird niya naman, sir, ganun, no? May student naman na gusto si Rogers kasi ang comforting, no? Valid reactions, pero academic evaluation needs more than your feelings. So, a mature approach, we should look at it as, I may personally like or dislike this theory, pero how well does it meet scientific criteria? That is how we avoid turning personality theory into fandom wars, no? Hindi ito BTS versus EXO or 18 versus Blooms, 'di ba? Hindi natin pag-aawayin yung mga fans ng psychodynamic at humanistic. We understand those perspectives kasi useful sila on their own manner. Okay? One of the most important distinction is science as process. Yan. Versus science as product. Okay? So, science as process refers to how science is done. Dito, possible ma-influence ng personal characteristics ng scientist yung choices niya. Ano yung topic na pipiliin niya, anong method, anong questions, anong interpretation, right? Science as a product means the final theory. Okay, the final theory, the final findings or research output. Ito dapat ang evaluate independently. Kunwari, yung chef may personality. Baka mahilig siya sa spicy food, kaya spicy yung dish na ginagawa niya. That is process influence. Right? Right? Pero kapag tinikman natin yung dish, we still evaluate, luto ba? Balanced ba? Edible ba? Masarap ba? Hindi lang, mabait ba yung chef? Spicy ba yung chef? Pogi ba yung chef? Maganda ba yung chef? Sexy ba siya? Hot ba siya? Hindi siya ganun, no? We evaluate the food itself. Kasi yun yung sinerve sa'yo eh. Sa science, ganun din. The scientist's personality may influence the process, but the product must be judged by scientific standards. So, hindi enough na sabihin na, interesting yung buhay niya, bet ko siya. Mukhang mabait. Mukhang mabait. Ayoko na magbanggit ng ibang word. Ang tanong pa rin palagi, useful ba yung theory? Supported ba? Coherent ba? Does it generate another research? Does it explain? Diba? So when evaluating theories, we should rely more on objective criteria than subjective likes and dislikes. Personal history helps us understand where the theory came from, pero scientific criteria help us judge whether the theory is useful. Okay, pwede mong i-appreciate ang theory because it feels relatable, pero relatability is not enough. Horoscopes can feel relatable too, 'di ba? Pero hindi ibig sabihin scientific na siya. Ako, Saji ako. I relate to it. Fire sign na super motivated and adventurer na nagkikip ng pera. Pero I don't rely my personality to that. I think minsan para akong Capricorn din, right? So you may dislike a theory because it feels uncomfortable. Pero discomfort is not disproof. Minsan, theories challenge us, and that does not automatically make them wrong. So as students, ang ideal stance is balanced. Dapat gets mo na the theorist's personal world may have shaped the theory, pero you will evaluate the theory based sa scientific usefulness. Hindi porke pogi si sir or maganda si ma'am at mabait ay paniniwalaan mo na lahat ng sinabi niya, no? Or ako, paniniwalaan niyo lahat ng sinabi ko kahit alam niyong mali. Okay? Kaya normally in my class, I challenge you to challenge me. I challenge you to argue with me. If you think something I said is wrong, then let me know. Hindi porke mabait si Lenny ay siya na yung best president. No, hindi porke nanalo si Bongbong, we have to glorify and follow him at all cost. We need to question it. Hindi porke korap at mamamatay tao si FPRRD, ay ganun din si Sara, di ba? Pero medyo likely kasi talaga. So, we can't judge. Pero we need to have facts to back it up, okay? That is a more professional way of thinking. Alright? Okay? So, what makes a theory useful? Ang useful theory ay may mutual and dynamic interaction with research data. Look at this diagram. Yan. Una, a theory generates a number of hypotheses that can be investigated through research, thus yielding research data. Okay? Theory gives meaning to data. Alright? It generates a lot of hypotheses muna. And itong mga research data ay nag-flow back into the theory and restructure it. From this newly contoured theory, scientists can extract other hypotheses, leading to more research and additional data, which in turn reshape and enlarge the theory even more. Kaya siya cycle. This cyclic relationship continues for as long as the theory proves useful. Second, theory organizes research data into a meaningful structure and provides an explanation for the results of scientific research. If hindi na kaya mag-generate ng theory, ng additional research or even explain related research idea or research data, it loses its usefulness and is set aside to favor of a more useful one. Baka outdated na siya, right? Additionally, a useful theory must lend itself to confirmation or disconfirmation. Alright? Provide the practitioner with a guide to action to be consistent with itself and be as simple as possible. Therefore, we can conclude na, number one, a useful theory, number one, what? Generates research, right? A useful theory generates research. A useful theory is falsifiable. It organizes data. It guides action and is internally consistent. Okay? Additionally, it should also be parsimonious. Let's define it in a bit. Okay? So, a useful theory is what? Right? Okay. So, ang pinaka-importanting criteria ng useful theory is this. Nakakapag-generate ba siya ng research? It should generate research, di ba? Hindi sapat na maganda siyang pakinggan. Hindi sapat na deep siya, ang lalim niya, and hindi rin sapat na, relatable siya. No? A useful theory should actually push scientists to ask questions, test ideas, and discover new findings. Think of a theory as a roadmap. Kapag may theory ka, hindi ka basta naglalakad sa dilim, hindi ka nangangapa, no? May direction ka, okay? Like Neptune, no? Na-discover siya because the theory of motion, okay? Alam niyo yung Neptune, 'di ba? Yung nakalimutan ko na. Yung anong tawag doon? Planet, yan. Na-discover siya because of the theory of motion. Nakapag-form ng hypothesis yung mga astronomer. Sabi, kung may irregularity sa path ng Uranus, baka may ibang planet na nakakaapekto doon. So, hindi nila basta hinulaan si Neptune. The theory guided their research. Parang theory said, doon ka tumingin, no? May something doon, no? Ganon. No? Ganon ka-powerful ang useful theory. Okay? Sa personality psychology, ganito rin. Kapag may theory tayo about personality, it tells research what to observe. Halimbawa, kung ang theory says, Um, traits influence behavior. Researchers can study traits, measure them, categorize them, and test if they predict behavior. Hindi random yung research, may guide siya, di ba? Ganun siya. Now, useful theories generate two kinds of research. Merong dalawang kind ng research. First is the descriptive research. Ito yung nagme-measure, nagle-label, and nagka-categorize ng important units sa theory. Parang inaayos muna natin yung pieces, no? Ano yung concept, paano siya susukatin, anong categories ang involved, no? For example, before you can test personality traits, kailangan malinaw muna kung ano ang traits, paano sila i-label, and paano sila i-measure. Okay? Second is hypothesis testing. Dito naman, gumagawa tayo ng specific predictions from the theory. Then, iti-test natin siya. Okay? Kapag supported ang hypothesis, nadadagdagan ang evidence. Kapag hindi supported, di hindi automatic na tapos na ang theory, no? Pero kailangan siyang i-review, i-adjust, or palawakin para ma-meet natin yung hypothesis. Ganun siya. Excuse me. Ang maganda dito, theory and research have relationships na parang give and take, no? The theory generates research, then the research feeds back into the theory. Kapag maraming descriptive research, mas maraming complete na theory, no? Kapag maraming hypothesis testing, mas nakikita natin kung useful ba talaga yung theory itself. So again, useful theory does not just explain. It sends researchers somewhere. It generates research. Kapag walang research na nagagawa from a theory, mahina ang usefulness niya. Pero kapag marami siyang questions na nabubuksan, maraming studies na nagagawa, and kaya niyang mag-grow based on findings, yan ang theory na buhay sa science. Okay? Then, we have a useful theory is falsifiable. Falsifiability. Kapag sinabi nating falsifiable, hindi ibig sabihin false agad. Hindi siya mali. Ang ibig sabihin, kaya siyang i-test in a way na possible siyang ma-support o ma-disconfirm. Okay? Dito usually nalilito. Kasi akala ng madami, kapag falsifiable, parang sinasabi nating pangit or mali yung theory, no? Hindi siya ganon. Actually, sa science, complement pa nga minsan kapag falsifiable ang theory kasi ibig sabihin, clear siya enough para subukan. Para i-try. May risk siya. Pwedeng sabihin na ng evidence na, tama ka. Or sabihin na, wait lang, hindi supported yan, mali yan. Ganun, no? Nag-i-encourage siya ng debate, nagsistimulate siya ng usapan. Ang problema, kapag ang theory sobrang laki, sobrang vague, kahit anong result, kaya niyang ipilit na tama siya. Okay? Halimbawa, kapag sinabi ng theory na lahat ng ginagawa mo ay may hidden meaning, tapos kapag mabait ka, hidden meaning. Kapag masungit ka, hidden meaning. Kapag tahimik ka, hidden meaning. Kapag madaldal ka, hidden meaning. Paano natin malalaman kung mali? Kung lahat ng behavior ay evidence para sa theory, then wala na siyang real test. No? Parang jowa mo na kahit anong gawin, may interpretation, nagre-reply ka agad, clingy ka. Hindi ka nag-reply, cold ka. Nag-heart react ka, may meaning. Hindi ka nag-heart react, may meaning pa rin. Diba? Saan ka lulugar? So, a falsifiable theory must be accountable to experimental results. Kapag hindi supported ng evidence, dapat may consequence. Either i-discard ang theory or i-modify siya, no? Hindi pwedeng laging, tama pa rin ako, at least tama pa rin ako. Hindi pwedeng ganun, no? Maganda ring example dito yung kay Aristotle. Logically, sinabi niya na lighter bodies fall slower than heavier bodies. Okay? Parang common sense pakinggan, di ba? Mas mabigat, mas mabilis bumagsak. Alright? Pero ang issue, empirically wrong siya. Ibig sabihin, kahit logical pakinggan yung idea, kung hindi supported by evidence, science must be willing to reject it. Now, connect natin to kay Freud. Theories relying heavily on unobservable unconscious transformations are very difficult to verify or falsify. Right? For example, sa Freudian explanation, ang expressed na emotion can supposedly hide its opposite, no? Conscious love may hide unconscious hate, or exaggerated hostility may hide unconscious fear. The problem is, kapag ganito kalawak ang explanation, halos kahit anong behavior pwede mong i-explain. And if a theory can explain everything, then scientifically, it may explain nothing. Right? Lalim naman nun, sir. Hindi naman masyado. So, falsifiable lang, it means testable, no? Hindi false. A useful theory should be brave enough to face evidence. Kapag hindi siya pwedeng matalo kahit kailan, hindi na siya strong theory. Parang excuse na lang siya na laging mayroong lusot. Okay? Kasi again, walang perfect na theory, wala dapat perfect na theory. Okay? Ganun lang siya. Now, aside sa falsifiable, we also have it organizes data. This one is another criterion. Kaya ba niyang mag-organize ng data? Kasi kahit marami kang research findings, kung kalat-kalat naman sila, hindi pa rin sila ganun ka-helpful. Right? Data without organization is like screenshot sa phone na walang album. May resibo, may screenshot ng GCash, may meme, may lecture notes, may picture ng pagkain. Pero kapag hinanap mo na, wala kang mahanap. Right? Ang useful theory, inaayos niya ang research findings into a meaningful framework. Ibig sabihin, tinutulungan niya tayong makita kung paano connected ang mga findings. Hindi lang siya listahan ng facts. Binibigyan tayo ng structure ng information. For example, sa personality, may data tayo about childhood. May data tayo about traits, about anxiety, motivation, relationships, learning, and behavior. Kung walang theory, parang magkakahiwalay silang chismis. Pero kapag may theoretical framework, makikita natin, baka connected ang early experience sa adult relationship patterns. Or, baka ang trait na anxiety may connection sa avoidance behavior. Doon natin nagiging meaningful yung data. Okay? Kunwari, maraming data for politics, di ba? Survey results, voter behavior, speeches, social media, reactions, economic issues, ang dami, mga debate. Parang noise lang silang lahat kapag walang theory or walang framework. No? Pero kapag may framework, mas makakatanong ka ng maayos anong factors ang connected sa voting behavior. Identity ba? Economy ba? Apelyido ba? Social influence ba? Trust ba as a leader? Di ba? So, theory helps organize the mess. Ganito rin sa science, kapag hindi organized ang data, scientists cannot ask intelligent questions at kapag walang intelligent questions, humihina ang future research. Kasi paano ka magre-research kung hindi mo alam kung saan papunta ang findings? Right? So, sa personality theory, useful siya kung kaya niyang i-integrate ang known information about human behavior and personality development. Dapat, kaya niyang ayusin ang maraming, what do you call that? Hala, nakalimutan ko. Ayun, kaya niyang ayusin ang maraming pieces into a meaningful arrangement. Hindi kailangan i-explain niya lahat ng behavior perfectly, pero dapat may reasonable explanation siya for at least some kinds of behavior. No? A useful theory turns scattered data into a meaningful story. Kapag hindi niya kayang ayusin or ipaliwanag ang findings, nawawala ang usefulness niya. Right? Data gives pieces. Okay? Theory gives the picture. Okay? Intindihan ang organized data? Now let's proceed with the next criterion. It guides action. Ang point dito, a useful theory should not stay sa libro lang. Hindi siya dapat pang-exam lang or pang-definition lang. Dapat kaya niyang tumulong sa real-life decisions lalo na sa mga taong laging humaharap sa practical problems, parents, teachers, managers, psychotherapists, counselors, and even leaders. Kasi sa real life, ang daming tanong. Okay? Kunwari, parent, paano ko kakausapin ng anak ko na laging nagsisinungaling? O, tas yung teacher, paano ko tutulungan tong absent na to, laging absent? O, manager, paano ko i-motivate ang employee na hindi productive? Okay, kapag walang theory, parang trial and error lang lahat, no? Try dito, try doon, bahala na. No, parang nagluluto ka ng adobo pero wala kang recipe tapos nagtataka kung bakit naging sabaw, no? Bakit nagkaroon ng sabaw yung adobong baboy mo, right? A useful theory gives a structure. Hindi niya automatic sinasagot lahat perfectly, pero nagbibigay siya ng direction. Parang sinasabi niya, kung ganito ang cause ng problem, then ganito ang possible action. Dito, maganda yung comparison between Freudian psychoanalyst and Rogerian counselor. Okay? So the question here normally is, how can I best treat this patient? Magkaiba sila ng sagot because magkaiba yung theory nila. For the Freudian psychoanalyst, kung ang problem ay galing sa unconscious childhood conflicts, then ang action is to uncover those repressions and help the patient work through them. So ang direction niya, go deeper into the unconscious. For the Rogerian counselor naman, kung psychological growth needs empathy, unconditional positive regard, and congruent therapist, then ang action is to create an accepting and non-threatening atmosphere. So ang direction niya, build a safe relationship where a client can grow. Same patient, different theory, different action, different story. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin automatic na isa lang ang may sense. Ang point is, theory shapes intervention. Okay? Kunwari, may couple na lagi nag-aaway dahil hindi siya nag-update, no? May isa sa kanilang hindi nag-update. Kung ang theory mo ay lack of communication skills, then action mo is teach clearer communication and expectations. Pero kung ang theory mo ay deep insecurity and fear of abandonment, then action mo is not just mag-update ka kasi, no? Kailangan pag-usapan yung fear, yung trust, yung emotional safety. Okay? Same issue, different framework, different action. Right? Kaya importante ang theory. Kung mali ang lens mo, baka mali rin yung advice mo. Isa pa, kunwari may public distrust sa leader, pero panalo pa rin. Kung ang theory mo ay kulang lang sa information ang mga tao, then action mo is information campaign. Pero kung ang theory mo ay wala nang trust because repeated broken promises, then need na natin ng accountability from that. Ganun lang siya. Okay? That is the idea of a useful theory guides action. Okay? A useful theory is internally consistent. Ang ibig sabihin nito, a useful theory does not need to agree with every other theory, pero kailangan hindi niya inaaway yung sarili niya. For example, okay lang kung magkaiba ang theory ni Freud at ni Rogers. Hindi requirement na pareho sila ng explanation or may magkakahawig sa kanila, pero kung yung isang theory mismo ay nagsasabing people are fully controlled by unconscious forces, tapos sa dulo ng paper niya, ang sabi doon, people are fully free all of the time, without explaining how both can fit, meron tayong problem, no? O, kunwari, partner mo, jowa mo, ang sabi, I trust you. I trust you. I love you because I trust you. Pero bawat 5 minutes, every 5 minutes, sino kausap mo? Anong gawa mo? Nasaan ka na naman? Siguro may ganito ka na naman. Oh. Trust ba yun? Diba? Internal inconsistency yun, bestie. Right? Ano ka, girl? Diba? Internal inconsistency yon. Hindi tugma yung parts na sinasabi niya sa ginagawa niya. A theory must have components that are logically compatible. Ibig sabihin, yung concepts niya dapat magkakaugnay in a way na may sense. Hindi pwedeng halo-halo lang ng magandang pakinggan na terms, no? Kasi kapag magulo ang loob ng theory, mahihirapan tayong gamitin siya to explain behavior. Okay? Important din dito yung scope. A theory should know its limits. Hindi niya kailangang i-explain lahat ng bagay sa mundo. Kapag ang theory ay about personality development, huwag niyang pilitin i-explain pati inflation, pati traffic, at bakit hindi nag-reply si crush mo, no? Unless merong clear na connection. Okay? Kung ang theory mo ay about voter motivation, gamitin mo siya for voter behavior, not automatically for every single national problem. Kapag lampas na sa scope, nagiging pilit, pumapangit. Okay? Another important point, terms must be consistent. Hindi pwedeng yung word na anxiety sa isang part means fear, tapos sa ibang part means excitement, tapos sa iba naman means guilt. Malilito yung mga magbabasa ng research or ng theory. Same term, same meaning dapat, no? Also, hindi dapat dalawang magkaibang terms ang ginagamit kung iisa lang pala yung concept. Kasi kapag magulo ang language, magulo rin yung research. Kaya kailangan ng operational definition. Ito yung definition na nakabase sa saan? Sa observable or measurable behavior. Halimbawa, instead of saying extroverted siya kasi feel ko lang, no? We define extraversion through a measure scope on a personality inventory or inventory. So ang extrovert can be operationally defined as someone who reaches a predetermined score on a specific personality test. In real life, kung sasabihin mong toxic siya, ano yung observable basis? Ano yung norms? Lagi ba siyang nangiinsulto? Lagi ba siyang nanggagaslight? Hindi ba marunong magrespeto ng boundary? Or baka hindi siya nagreply kasi tulog? Kailangan clear yung definition, hindi yung label agad. Okay? A useful theory must not contradict itself. Dapat malinaw yung concepts, consistent yung terms, defined ang limits, and measurable ang key ideas. Kasi kung magulo ang theory, magulo rin ang explanation na lalabas. Lastly, we have parsimony. Okay, a useful theory is parsimonious. Kapag sinabi nating parsimonious, ibig sabihin kung may dalawang theories na halos pareho ang usefulness, dapat pareho silang nakakapag-generate ng research, falsifiable, nakaka-organize ng data, nakaka-guide ng action, and internally consistent. Mas preferred yung simpler and clearer theory. Hindi ibig sabihin na dapat mababaw ha. Hindi rin ibig sabihin na bawal maging complex. Ang point is, huwag gawing complicated kung kaya namang ipaliwanag ng malinaw. Kasi minsan, ang theory na ang daming heavy terms, ang daming pa-deep na language, pero pag tinanong mo, ano ba talaga sinasabi nito? Tas ang isasagot lang ng theorist sa'yo, basta complex siya. Hindi yun automatic scientific. Minsan, jargon lang na naka-Amerikana, no? Kunwari, hindi siya nag-reply. Balik tayo doon. Kunwari, hindi siya nag-reply. Possible explanation number 1, baka busy. Explanation number 2, because of unresolved intergenerational emotional displacement activated by symbolic digital abandonment dynamics, no? Hala ka girl, no? Baka nag-charge lang ng phone. No, hindi natin sinasabing impossible ang deeper issue, pero parsimonious thinking tells us start with the simpler reasonable explanation before jumping to a giant theory of emotional apocalypse. Kapag bumaba ang trust sa isang leader, simple lang explanation yan. Baka may repeated unmet promises. Baka may pangakong napako. Baka kurakot. Baka ganto. Baka ganyan. Hindi dahil sa voting, hindi dahil sa ganto, hindi dahil sa ganyan, di ba? Ganun siya. Pero kung gagawa agad tayo ng sobrang complicated explanation na may 10 abstract forces pero walang clear evidence, baka hindi na useful. Mas okay ang theory na clear, direct, and can actually guide research. Sa personality theory, important ito kasi psychologists should begin on a limited scale. Huwag agad gumawa ng sweeping generalization na this theory explains all human behavior forever and ever happily ever after. Delikado yun. Okay? Mas useful kung magsisimula muna sa specific area, then gradually extend kapag may enough support. Ganyan din kay Freud eh. He began with a theory based largely on hysterical neurosis. Then, over time, pinalawak niya to include more aspects of total personality. So, even broad theories often start from a more limited focus. Basta, ang idea nito, parsimony means clear, not shallow ha, hindi mababaw, kundi simple. A good theory should be deep enough to explain but simple enough to use. Kapag sobrang bigat na ng concepts, hindi na gumagalaw ang explanation. Baka hindi na siya powerful. Baka overcomplicated na lang siya. Baka papansin na lang. Okay? Ganun siya. Sir, why do we talk about it? Why do we talk about theory? Why do we talk about research? No? Because TOP is about theories and theories are formed through researches. So, what does it do in TOP? Ang pinaka-point dito is, ang useful theory, hindi dapat maganda pakinggan. Dapat kaya niyang mag-generate ng research. Di ba may cycle dito? Theory gives a meaning to data, tapos yung data naman galing sa research, nagte-test na ng hypothesis from the theory. So, hindi sila magkahiwalay. Okay? Parang give and take relationship. Theory gives direction, research gives feedback. Pero hindi lahat ng data galing sa formal experiment. Maraming nagsisimula sa observation. To observe simply means to notice something, to pay attention. In fact, matagal na tayong nag-o-observe ng personality kahit hindi pa tayo psychologist, kahit hindi pa natin inaaral ang psychology. Bata pa lang tayo, napapansinan natin, ay madaldal siya, ay tahimik siya, si mama ganto, si papa ganto, mabilis siya kabahan, siya yung naging leader, siya yung laging leader, siya yung matalino, siya yung nananana, siya yung tagasin lang sa GC. Those are everyday observations. Pero ang difference, psychologists try to be systematic. Hindi sapat yung feeling ko lang kasi ganito. No? They observe carefully. They ask better questions, they measure behavior, and try to make predictions that are more consistent and accurate. Kunwari, kung napansin mo na hindi siya nagre-reply agad, observation yon. Pero kung gumawa ka agad ng conclusion na, ay, baka may iba na to, baka bago na to, may iba na tong kausap, no? O, kalmahan mo muna, no? Psychologist would ask, pattern ba to? Ganto kadalas? Sa anong situation? May ibang explanation ba? 'Di ba? Doon nagiging systematic ang observation. So, everyone observes personality, but psychologists observe systematically. 'Di ba? Napapansin natin na may mga taong talkative and outgoing. Then yung iba, quiet and reserved. Tapos minsan nililabel natin sila as extrovert or introvert. Pero ang important question, accurate ba yung label? Totoo bang extrovert yan? Totoo bang introvert yan? No? 'Di ba? Ganoon siya eh. Halimbawa, may classmate kang tahimik sa classroom. So sasabihin mo introvert yan. Pero kapag nasa TikTok yan, siya pala yung host ng buong barangay, 'di ba? Or may taong madaldal sa friends niya pero tahimik sa strangers. Okay? So the question is, introvert ba siya? Extrovert ba siya? Or depende sa situation? Okay? That is why researcher ask deeper questions. Is one extroverted person like another? Lahat ba ng extrovert pareho? No? Do they always act talkative and outgoing always? Can all people be classified neatly as introvert or extrovert? Accurate ba ang labels natin or oversimplified? Additional example, minsan tinatawag natin ng voters as loyalist, undecided, or anti, 'di ba? Pero kung scientific tayo, hindi sapat yung label. We ask, consistent ba ang behavior nila? What beliefs predict their choices? May social influence ba? May economic reason ba? May something ba, 'di ba? Label is just the start, not the full explanation. So sa personality research or personality psychology, everyday observations become scientific kapag tinanong natin sila ng maayos. Hindi lang tayo nagle-label, we check if the label really works. Okay? Label is important even in personality psychology, pero we have to check if it really works. Diba? And how do we make sure that the label works? We check for consistency and reliability, right? Okay. Kasi para maging accurate or mas accurate ang predictions, personality psychologists develop assessment techniques including personality inventories. Pero hindi porke may test, okay na agad. Dapat ang instrument ay reliable and valid. Reliability means consistency. Kung sinusukat ng... At dito madalas naguguluhan yung mga tao ha. Reliability, validity, and utility. Specifically, reliability and validity. Reliability means consistency. Okay, consistency of measurement. Kung sinusukat ng test ang personality dimension mo today, dapat reasonably consistent siya kung walang major change. Parang weighing scale. Kung tumimbang ka ngayon ng 65 kg, tapos after 5 seconds naging 78 kg ka, tapos after 5 seconds naging 42 kg ka, may problema. Hindi siya reliable. Okay? Validity naman means accuracy. Sinusukat ba talaga ng test ang dapat niyang sukatin? Okay? Important thing here is a test can be reliable, no? Can be reliable but invalid. Halimbawa, may weighing scale ka na lagi kang sinasabing 70 kg. Consistent siya, di ba? So reliable na siya. No? Consistent siya na 70 kg ka, no? So very much reliable siya. Pero kung yung totoong weight mo ay 65 kg, reliable nga siya, hindi naman siya valid. Okay? In personality, pwedeng consistent kang bigyan ng isang test na high extraversion score pero kung ang items pala mostly about social desirability or pagpapakitang tao, then maybe hindi talaga extraversion yung sinusukat. So, kulang siya sa validity. Invalid siya. Kung lagi mong ginagamit yung mabilis mag-reply as measure of love, reliable ba yun? Diba? Maybe consistent mong sinusukat yung reply speed, pero valid ba yung measurement ng love? Hindi necessarily, 'di ba? Kasi baka busy lang, baka lowbat, baka umuulan, di makapag-chat sa daan, 'di ba? Baka nasa work, baka tulog. Okay, that's an example of reliable test but invalid. Consistent measure, um, consistent measure, wrong construct. Okay? Again, reliability is consistency, validity is accuracy. All right? Now, we have here few lang naman. One major type of validity is the construct validity. Ito isa sa mga major type lang ng validity. A construct is a psychological concept na hindi mo mahawakan physically. Tandaan nyo na, ang word na construct, ang ibig sabihin niyan ay bagay na hindi natin mahawakan physically pero it exists, no? It's a concept. Hindi mo pwedeng ilagay sa garapon yung extraversion, hindi mo pwedeng timbangin yung aggressiveness like bigas, pero kahit wala silang physical form, dapat may connection sila sa observable behavior. Example, extraversion. Hindi natin nakikita ang extraversion mismo, pero nakikita natin yung behaviors related to it like social interaction, talkativeness, assertiveness, seeking stimulation, di ba? Construct validity asks, does the test really measure the construct it claims to measure? No? May three important types yan. First is the convergent validity. Dapat yung test ay highly related sa other valid measures of the same construct. Kung extraversion test yan, dapat related siya sa sociability or assertiveness. Kasi those are connected to extraversion. Second, divergent validity. Dapat hindi siya highly related sa unrelated constructs. Kung extraversion test yan, hindi dapat sobrang taas ng correlation niya with honesty, self-esteem, emotional stability, or social desirability. Kasi baka hindi na extraversion yung nasusukat, baka trying to look good na. 'Di ba? Third, we have the discriminant validity. Dapat kaya niyang i-distinguish ang groups known to be different. Kung ang test measures extraversion, dapat mas mataas ang score ng known extroverts kesa sa known introverts. Okay? Convergent, dapat related sa kapareho. Divergent, dapat hindi dikit sa hindi niya kasama. Discriminant, dapat marunong maghiwalay ng magkaibang groups. Okay? Another type ng validity is predictive validity. Ito naman, kaya ba ng test na mag-predict ng future behavior? Nandun naman na sa pangalan na prediction, no? For example, kung may test about extraversion, may predictive validity siya kung related siya sa future behaviors like risk-taking, social behavior, academic performance, or other independent criteria mentioned, no? Ang ultimate value ng measuring instrument is kung may kaya siyang i-predict na future behavior or condition. So, hindi lang dapat na interesting yung test, no? Dapat may use, dapat may prediction, may connection sa real behavior. Kung gumawa ka ng relationship trust test, predictive validity ang tanong. The predictive validity would ask, does it predict future relationship behavior like communication quality or conflict patterns, right? Kung hindi, baka cute lang siya sagutan pero hindi siya scientifically useful, no? Now, important historical point, many early personality theorists did not use standardized assessment inventories, no? Sina Freud, Adler, and Jung developed some form of projective tool pero hindi nila ginamit with enough precision to establish reliability and validity. Pero kahit ganun, their theories inspired later standardized personality inventories. Researchers and clinicians tried to measure personality traits proposed by those theorists. Okay? Later, yung mga theorists like sina Julian Rutter, sila Hans Eysenck, sino ba? The five factor theorists, no, sila McRae, na developed and used personality measures more heavily, mas naging central and measurement sa theory building. Okay? And ginamit nila yung validity and reliability. Sa observation, starts the question. Assessment measures the pattern, reliability checks consistency, validity checks accuracy, and predictive validity predicts future usefulness. Okay? Naintindihan? Okay. So wait lang, real quick. May gagawin lang real quick. Mabilis lang to, promise. Ayan. Welcome back. Sorry, dumating kasi yung food. Umorder ako ng food, tapos yan. Kaya, pasensya na. Anyway, saan tayo? Yun, so predictive validity. Again, predictive validity just predicts, no? Very much ito yung kung kaya niya bang mag-predict ng future behavior na related doon, okay? In real world outcome. Again, predictive validity is just prediction. Next, before we wrap things up, no, may chika lang muna ako about sa bakit madaming theory. Okay? Ang point lang kasi dito, bawat personality theory may hidden assumption about what humans are like. Okay? Hindi lang sila basta nagkakaiba ng terms, hindi lang ito um, iba ang vocabulary ni Freud, iba kay Rogers, iba kay Skinner, no? Or may mga gustong patunayan, ganyan, or gusto tayong pahirapan, no? Hindi ganon. Magkakaiba sila ng sagot sa tanong na ano ba yung tao? Controlled ba siya? Free ba siya? Good ba siya? Troubled ba siya? Product ba siya ng past or goal-directed ba siya toward the future? Okay? So, merong 6 dimension na magtutulong sa atin to compare theories. Para siyang checklist ng worldview. Kapag binasa mo ang isang theory, i-ask mo tong mga question na to, na ano yung view niya sa human nature, no? Una, we have determinism versus free choice. Okay? Determinism means a behavior is shaped by forces outside a person's control. Pwedeng unconscious forces, childhood experiences, biology, environment, reinforcement, or social pressure. No? Free choice naman means people can choose and shape who they become. Right? Kunwari, may student na laging nagpa-procrastinate. Deterministic view might say, may forces behind that. Baka may habit, anxiety, reinforcement, past failures, family pressure, di ba? Baka ganun yung iniisip. Ang free choice naman, they might think, yes, may influences, pero may capacity pa rin siyang pumili kasi ng bago niyang routine. Di ba? Ganun siya. Okay? Important dito, hindi siya always either or. Pero question is, can behavior be partially free and partially determined? In real life, usually, ganun yung nangyayari. May constraint, pero may choices pa rin. Okay? So kapag may taong siloso, deterministic view might ask, baka may past betrayal. Baka may nag-cheat na sa kanya dati. No? Or baka insecure attachment lang. Or baka learned pattern. Pero free choice view might say na valid na. O sige, may past ka, may insecure attachment ka, may learned pattern ka, niloko ka before, may pinakilala sa'yo na pinsan daw, tapos ngayon, hanggang ngayon, sila pa din after nyong mag-break, diba? Valid yun. Pero responsible ka pa rin sa behavior mo ngayon. So, hindi porke may cause, excuse na agad para maging ganyan ka. May explanation, pero may accountability pa rin. Madami yan sa sa mga relationship. Yung mga taong nagsasabi na, ayoko magbago para sa'yo kasi dapat tatanggapin mo ako as me. Ganyan. Tapos magpapakita ng mga problematic behavior. Kunwari, um, ayaw niyang, kunwari, nasa isang sila, nagsabi natin nag-staycation. Nag-staycation. Dalawa lang sila. Tapos, hindi gumagalaw yung isa. Kunwari, hindi gumagalaw yung isang partner. Tapos, ang reason niya, hindi naman kasi ako gumagalaw sa bahay, hindi ako pinapagalaw nila mama, di ako nagaganto, di ako nagaganyan, di ako sanay sa ganto, di ako sanay sa ganyan. May free choice ka. 'Di ba? May choice ka para piliin, para baguhin yung behavior mo, responsible ka sa choices mo. Hindi pwedeng habang buhay kang hindi marunong gumalaw sa bahay. Okay? Dapat may accountability ka. No? Hindi porke may cause, hindi porke hindi ka gumagalaw sa bahay nyo, ay pipiliin mo ng hindi gumalaw sa labas ng bahay nyo. Ganon siya. Okay? That is free choice and determinism. Now, we have pessimism versus optimism. Pessimism, ito yung mga taong nagsasabi na, are people doomed to be miserable, conflicted, and troubled? Yung optimism naman, can people change, grow, and become psychologically healthy, happy, and fully functioning? No, usually theorists who are more deterministic tend to be pessimistic. Kasi if people are controlled by strong forces, parang limited lang yung hope for change. Pero, meron ditong mga exception, no? Normal lang kapag pinili nila determinism, ang sunod na sagot nila ay pessimism, no? Pero may mga exception diyan, like Skinner, 'di ba? Si Skinner, ang theory niya ay very deterministic, pero not necessarily pessimistic. Theorists who believe more in free choice are often optimistic kasi they see people as capable of growth. Example, kung ang view mo sa mga tao ay madali lang silang manipulahin forever, pessimistic 'yon. Pero kung ang view mo is people can become more informed, critical, and responsible when conditions improve, optimistic yon. Sa personality theory, ganun din. Does the theorist see people as stuck or capable of development? No? Ganun lang siya. Third is the causality versus teleology. Causality means behavior is explained by the past. Ginagawa mo to kasi ito yung nangyari sa'yo dati. Ganun siya, no? Teleology naman means behavior is explained by future goals or purposes. Like, ginagawa mo to because of what you are aiming for. O, example, may student na nag-aaral ng sobra. Ang causality explanation dyan would be, baka lumaki siya na pressured by family. 'Di ba? Ako ganyan ako eh. Um, Lumaki ako na pressured ng family ko na kailangan na siguro kasi dahil panganay ako so parang pasan ko yung expectation ng parents ko, achiever ako, academic achiever ako simula nung bata, ganyan ganyan. So very causal yung explanation na pwedeng kunin sa akin. Pero kung magpapakonsult ako sa teleological explanation, then baka isipin nila, may goal siya. Kasi nung pagdating ko ng third year, fourth year college, sabi ko, gusto ko mag-top ng board exam. Gusto ko kunin yung, like ako yung nandun. Ganyan. Yun na, naging ganun na yung goal ko. So, pwede siyang maging teleological explanation kung bakit ako nag-aaral ng sobra that time. No? Ganun siya. Okay? Same behavior, like studying hard, pero one explanation looks backward and the other looks forward. Okay? Kunwari, may taong clingy. Ibang tao naman, di na ako. May taong clingy. Baka may past abandonment. Okay? Pag causality ha. Baka may past abandonment. Baka iniwan yan dati nung hindi siya naging clingy, kaya ngayon nagpapaka-clingy siya. Pero teleology would say, baka ginawa niya yon to secure closeness in the future. Okay? Both can matter. Kaya mahalaga ang dimension na to kasi tinatanong niya, past ba ang main explanation or future? Okay? Ganun siya. Then, fourth, we have conscious versus unconscious determinants. As we all know, dito tinatanong, aware ba ang tao na ginagawa nila and why they do it? Or may unconscious forces na nakaapekto sa behavior kahit hindi nila alam. Example, may taong nagsasabing, wala akong pake, pero halatang affected, no? Nagche-check pa rin ng profile, ng stories, last seen, repost, lahat, di ba? Ang conscious statement niyan, baka isipin niya, wala talaga akong pake. Pero, yung unconscious or less aware process dyan ay nasasaktan, natatakot, may jealousy, no, nagseselos, rejection, longing, namimiss, 'di ba? Hindi ibig sabihin automatic tama ang unconscious interpretation ha. Pero this dimension asks whether theorists give importance sa hidden forces. Kunwari, may student na ayaw mag-report and sabi, tinatamad lang ako. Pero baka inside, takot siyang mapahiya, no? The conscious reason here would be laziness. Kasi yun yung alam niya eh. Pero possible deeper determinant dito or yung unconscious part niya, fear of evaluation, 'di ba? So some theories focus on what people know about themselves. Others focus on what people do not fully realize or fully recognize. Dito malaking bagay si Freud. Sobrang laking bagay ni Freud dito. Okay? Now, the fifth one, we have biological versus social influences. Dito naman, tinatanong lang dito, personality ba ay mostly shaped by biology, heredity, genes, brain, temperament, or mostly by social relationships? No? Familiar culture. Familiar culture. Um, Environment, experience. Example, may person na naturally anxious. May anxiety, ganyan. Biological view niya might point to temperament or baka nervous system sensitivity. Social view niya might say na sa family environment, criticism, trauma, pressure, or peer experiences. Mas masarap pakinggan, no? Yung social view, pero hindi kasi siya automatic na tama. Okay? More specific version to ng heredity versus environment. Okay, ng nature versus nurture. If a person becomes aggressive online, biological view might ask about temperament or impulse control. Social view might ask about group influence, social media reinforcement, political culture, or even echo chambers, right? Again, hindi kailangan one side lang. Many theories combine both, pero may emphasis sila. Lastly, number 6, uniqueness versus similarities. Dito tinatanong, should personality psychology focus on what makes each person unique or what people have in common? Okay? Uniqueness means bawat tao ay may individual pattern. We all know that, di ba? Hindi porke parehong anxious, pareho na sila ng story. Similarities naman means may common traits, strategies, needs, or patterns shared by people. Example, Oh, may dalawang tao na maybe both introverted. Okay? Pero yung isa introverted because social interactions drains them. Yung isa quiet because of anxiety. Yung isa reserved because of cultural upbringing. Oh. So uniqueness matters. Tatlo pala yun, sorry. Ayun. So uniqueness matters. But at the same time, useful din ang similarities kasi they allow science to classify, compare, and predict. Okay? Example, lahat ng avoidant, hindi yan pare-pareho. May avoidant dahil overwhelmed, may avoidant dahil hindi invested, may avoidant dahil learned coping, pero may shared pattern pa rin, di ba? Which is distancing. So, kailangan both common pattern and individual story. Okay, now, pinaka-importante, these differences between theorists and philosophical and deep-seated, sorry, um, yung differences na to between theorists are philosophical and deep-seated. Hindi sila maayos kung by simply using the same language. Kahit pareho silang gumagamit ng word na motivation, iba pa rin ang ibig sabihin depende sa view of humanity nila. And these assumptions are shaped partly by the theorist's own personality, childhood, experiences, birth order, gender, training, education, no, and relationships. Kaya may theorist na mas deterministic, may mas free choice, may mas pessimistic, optimistic, may focused sa past, may focused sa goals, may conscious, unconscious, biological, social, mayroong para sa uniqueness, may para sa similarities, di ba? Pero kahit opposing views sila, both can still be scientific. Hindi porke magkaiba ng view of humanity, ibig sabihin yung isa science tapos yung isa ay hindi. Okay, the question is still, maayos ba sila mag-gather ng data? Kaya ba nilang mag-build ng theory? Useful ba ang theory nila? Every personality theory has a picture of humanity behind it. Kapag alam mo yung picture na yon, mas gets mo kung bakit ganon yung explanation ng theorist sa behavior. Okay, naintindihan? Now, that's actually all for today. Ayun, that's all for the discussion ng introduction to theories of personality. I hope you have learned something for today. Although hindi naman natin siya full discussion pa or hindi pa ba yun? Full discussion kasi iisa-isahin naman natin sila next week, no? Iisa-isahin natin yung bawat topic, yung bawat tao inside the theories of personality. Ito ay parang ano lang, introduction para at least may gist, may idea kayo kung paano natin kino-question yung isang specific na theory. Okay? So, I'm not sure if I will prepare a quiz for Monday. For next week actually, Monday, sa mga class ko ng theories of personality by Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Good luck. We'll see. And with that, thank you so much and you have a great day. Bye.